The technology stays with us. Jenny is not the whining in the background. The whining in the background is the dog. I'll just show you the dog. Wait a second. Here we go. Say hello. Say hello. Say hello. The dog wants my bottle, but the dog can't have it. So, I'm going to tell you about Jenny. She was fairly typical. She'd spent most of her life eating, or trying to eat, about 1,200 calories a day, and often found that she overate and put weight on, and then she'd go for slim fast. So she quite often would be on a slim fast diet to lose that bit of weight, and that was a cycle that kept going on for her. And as she got older, less comfortable, put on more weight. And it wasn't so much the weight, I think it was more the kind of tight clothes and going up a dress size and all of that. She went to the doctors, and her cholesterol levels were above normal, and she was borderline on her sugar levels for diabetes. So she came to the point where she knew she needed to do something different. Now, she also suffered quite a lot of bloating and upset stomachs, and for a long time had spoken about gluten and dairy free, and had started to look into this. And what actually happened with Jenny is one day she decided that she was going to take gluten and dairy out of her diet for a period of time. Now, what's very interesting about this is that Jenny has very, very little confidence when it came to cooking. She very, very rarely cooked from scratch, was scared of chicken, certainly wouldn't have roasted a whole chicken, wouldn't use spices, and so she was kind of, excuse me, the puppy wants to be let out. Oh no, he's gone. Aha. So basically, she lived on ready meals when she wasn't doing the slim fast, so she had a lot of ready meals. And the thing about ready meals is, and processed food, it's really expensive, because she was on a tight budget. It's really, really expensive to go gluten and dairy free. So anyway, Jenny decided this about November, not last year, but the year before. And because it was Christmas, didn't want to do it until the new year. So what she did was she researched. She looked into gluten and dairy with support, and she was very, very anxious. So this meant that she could take those steps and learn about what she needed. She looked into the different supermarkets and what they offered. And then, not the first week of January, not the second week of January, but when she was ready, she started to supplement some of the gluten-free products and dairy-free products like soya milk and different things. And over a period of a couple of weeks, completely took gluten and dairy out of her diet. And lo and behold, she had absolutely amazing results. She felt brilliant. But then she also started to cook, because although she still used some of the processed support from the gluten and dairy-free ranges that you can get in supermarkets, she realised that actually she was going to have to do a lot more cooking and a lot less eating out. So that was one really surprising side effect. So for example, she'd send a message saying, I've just used garlic for the first time. I mean, that's so cool, isn't it? To be able to actually be empowered to learn to cook and really take yourself through that process. I mean, that's just amazing, I think. So she started to learn to cook and all of this. And the other really cool, so not just the whole physical things, side effect of what she did, was she started to gain in confidence, because when she was going out, she was having to ask for soya milk. She was having to ask whether they had gluten or dairy-free options. And that was like very much pushing her comfort zone. It was really, really scary. And over time, she was having to do it more and more, because guess what? When she had something that had a hint of dairy in or gluten, it upset her system. So she really did know that that was a big issue. She also thought that it was going to be more gluten than dairy that was the impact, but has since acknowledged that actually dairy does seem to be a big trigger for her. So I don't think she'll ever go back to normal milk. Now, About 12 months down the line, she went back for a cholesterol check and diabetes check, and they were really amazed at her levels because they dropped and they were really good. And she wasn't doing anything majorly different. She kind of like tweaked and very slowly moved her eating. It wasn't like extreme like a lot of the time people do. It was manageable, it was practical, and she was able to slowly but steadily move towards it. Now, the other cool thing is now she's started to introduce cheese and little bits of certain types of gluten, butter and some cheeses, because the harder the cheese, you can have like Parmesan cheese, for example, but some of them have lower amounts of lactose. So she's looked into it and she's started to have some cheese, and it's not upsetting her system. But over time, she's going to carry on doing all of that, but she is still really empowered and really in control. And you see, that's the cool thing when you really do take control and responsibility for your eating, because she's come on in leaps and bounds. I mean, from someone who only ate processed ready meals and who couldn't cook, to someone who's cooking and confident and is having to go out there and say to people, look, actually this is the way I eat, because sometimes there's still little wobbles, but she's in a really great space. And I think that's just amazing, isn't it? There's not that extremeness of going on like a diet or going to plant-based eating and all of that kind of stuff, and she's managed it within a really tight budget, and to be able to fit her push her comfort zone, but fit her kind of eating habits and comfort zone, and then she's been able to evolve it and push it. And I think that's just an absolutely amazing example. So hopefully you feel inspired by Jenny's story. I know I do. And I will catch you another time. Have a fabulous rest of your evening.